Hey there, welcome. I thought it'd be good to just do a review on this tractor since not a lot of people know about this brand, and I thought I might just talk about what I like and what I don't like in case you were curious or if this is useful to anybody. So, this is an LS MT, they call it MT347. Uh, this is on some of their tractors they have an HE. The E, if you see that means like economy. This is H for hydrostat, and I think they have a C on some of their models for a cab. This does have an optional cab. This is 47 horsepower. This is their 3 series, which they actually compare to the John Deere 4044R. And if you look at the capabilities and the specs, it matches up very nicely to that. Only it's about, oh goodness, I don't know, like $20,000 cheaper. so, uh, anyway, I'll get into that later. Let's just talk about an overview first. Let me grab the camera. I almost started talking. I almost started taking you on a tour, but I thought first I would talk a little bit about the LS brand. LS Tractor is. They used to be part of LG. I think they're still under their umbrella. Like the LG is, like electronics, South Korea, TVs, phones, etc., appliances. I believe they're still the parent company. I could be wrong about that, but LS is underneath them, or at least they used to be. And I know they broke away at some point. Like I said, I'm just not sure if they're still. I believe they're still a sub company underneath LG. But anyway, they're a very popular brand in South Korea, kind of like Kubota. They're trying to make an entrance over here in North America, but they're just not as well known. And they obviously started after Kubota, and yeah, they just don't have as many dealers. So that's why a lot of people haven't heard of them. But it is again, I'll talk about price later, but they actually make their own engine. So unlike, I don't even think Deere at the 4 series and below, I don't believe they might make their own engine for a 4 series, but I think everything smaller is the Yanmar engine, which is a good quality engine. But I just say that to say they're one of the few brands that have devoted the amount of resources, I can't even imagine millions it would take to develop a tier 4 emissions engine to meet the requirements that we have here in the United States for emissions. And I'm about to go off on a rant on why our government seemed necessary to put emission requirements on a tractor that gets, I don't know, maybe 100 hours a year, times all of the tractors that are out there. Like, it's not a lot. There's not a lot of them. Anyway, I don't want to get into politics. It's just, I'm all for saving the environment when it's reasonable or practical, but it just seems like those standards on something that gets very little use is ridiculous, and it adds lots of cost to the engine. It adds a lot of sensors. It adds a lot of things that can go wrong further down the road. They have to reinvent the way, for example, fuel delivery. I believe they pump it up to, I forget how many thousands of pounds on the fuel rail, makes it harder to work on. Again, more sensors. That has a can, I forget what that's called, but it's for the regen cycle so that the can collect soot, and over time, if the tractor's not working hard enough, it'll dump a whole bunch of fuel into the canister and burn off the soot, which I don't know. I guess maybe that's helping emissions, but then again, where does the stuff go that's burnt off? I know it smells bad. That's bad. I don't know. That stuff's beyond me, but it's just for something that doesn't see a lot of use every year. I don't know. It seems like it's just really frustrating that I have to pay for that equipment, that I have to have that equipment in the tractor, and it's just a lot more stuff that can go wrong. I don't like it, but I haven't had anything go wrong on this tractor. This engine's been very good. I haven't had any problems, but I don't like how they've had to do things. I just know, you know, coming up, like Dad bought a tractor back, oh goodness, like in the 70s. And that tractor stayed on our farm until he quit farming a few years ago. I mean, what's that, like 40, 50 years? Math's hard without a calculator. Anyway, the point is, those diesel engines lasted forever. And you always hear the thing, diesel engines last forever, and the engine itself does, but all the extra crap that they have to put on an engine nowadays to meet emissions, it's just not as reliable, because it's just a lot more stuff that can go wrong. That's just a fact. The more stuff you have, the more things that can possibly go wrong. But you do get better fuel economy, so that's a plus. Like I said, I haven't had any problems. You know, I wouldn't necessarily be scared of regen. You can work right through it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really cause any bad things. The other downside for me is I like smelling the smell of diesel exhaust. It reminds me of a childhood and a farm, you know, background and memories. And you don't smell any diesel exhaust with these new tractors and trucks. And they can meet the emission requirements if the engine is less than 25 horsepower without having to do all this other stuff. So, I don't know, one day when I'm older and I want to be able to work on the engine a little bit more, replace some things that I break, I might downgrade after we get a little bit more developed out here. I might downgrade to just a simple 25 horsepower model. So that's all I'll say on emissions. But that's every tractor since like the year 2000. So, you know, even buying an old tractor, you know, then you're getting into like, well, then what electronics it does have, you know, you're getting 20 years old by that point. So, I mean, it's, you know, things just start to go bad with age. It doesn't, you know, you can't really avoid it. But so if you want a high horsepower engine and you want something that's relatively new in the last, you know, 2 to 3 decades, you're going to have to get something with emission controls like this. So that's just a fact of life, unfortunately, now. So, I mean, I could understand it on semis, but, you know, something that runs every day, I don't know. It just seems ridiculous. But anyway, moving on. I think I talked about LS. I'll talk a little bit more about them later. Let's do a little walk around. I figured I might as well do a few measurements while I'm here, just in case, you know, this is something that would be useful. I should throw in a disclaimer. These are not exact measurements at all. Just give you a ballpark idea. The total length from, like, if I have a tool on, all the way back to the end of my mower is about 26 feet. The length of the actual tractor itself, measured like if I took off this quick attach tool, so measuring basically from the front of those quick attach arms all the way to the end of my, right there's where the links would be, but I measured to about there. That's like 13.5 feet. So, you know, the end of the link would be somewhere around, you know, 13 feet. The distance from about the front of the wheel there to the very end of the wheel, about here, is just over 10 feet. The distance from center line to center line is around 6 feet. So the distance from the like the front loader arms here is about 3.5 feet from there to there. The distance from the actual outside of the wheels is around 5.5 feet from there to over here. And then everything else is on the inside of that tractor. This is actually really nice. These 3-point arms have a clearance of about, you know, 30 inches or so, which is actually really nice compared to most smaller compacts. It feels like they can just barely lift anything off the ground. So that's really nice. The ground clearance under the axle, you know, up to there is around 18-17 inches or so. Underneath the wheel there, if you're watching out for stumps, you know, that's maybe closer to like 9 inches clearance. So that's kind of your lowest point, I think. I think the frame, yeah, that's higher than that. Yeah. So everything else is really higher. So that's your lowest point. If you're worried about any hitting stumps or anything in the dirt like that. From the ground, and I'm on pretty level ground. On the ground to the top of the ROPS is around 8 feet, maybe a little bit more than 8, maybe a little bit less, I mean. So measuring again, it might clear an 8-foot header if you have like all the air in the tires. I don't know, I would want more clearance than that. It's very, very tight if you're trying to fit this in an 8-inch without 8 foot without folding down the ROPS. I know it does have foldable ROPS, but that's always a concern. You know, you want them up when you're operating because that's your life, that's safety. But then if you fold them down, you know, it's a pain to fold them up and down, but a lot of people forget and run into their garage trying to park this. So honestly, I'd put like a 9-foot header and with a 9-foot opening, you know, the garage door obviously sits below that. You should be fine. I don't know if they do 8.5, but 8.5 would probably be fine. But then again, it depends how low the garage door sits, on, you know, below that opening and what type of garage door you have, etc. Anyway, I have a little canopy over there. I forgot where I got it from, but I have it tilted so that rain runs off it a little bit better. It's kind of nice to be able to do that. So that wasn't mounted like that, me thinking it was straight. But let's see, continuing the walk around, this was actually open. I got this, I forget where I got it, somewhere on Etsy, I think it was. Not Etsy, but I looked up a website for grill guards for this tractor model, and this popped up, and this has been, you can see how scratched up that is. That's been a lifesaver if you live in any type of brush like this. Yeah, I highly recommend getting that type of thing, or you know, you can make one yourself if you're handy. I didn't. A lot of, you know, it's like a race between time and saving money out here, and some things it's just, you know, even though it costs, it's just a lot faster to buy it. I try to use my time effectively where I can, but you can see, look at some of the dents that thing has. That thing has saved, and it didn't save this dent. That one was a little bit, came in from the side, and I saw that one happen too. I just was moving a little bit too fast and trying to push it too hard, and I couldn't stop in time, or I didn't realize it in time. I can't remember, but anyway, that's pretty much it for the front end there. Going on, I added this little thing for my chainsaw, bar oil, and, you know, mixed fuel, so that way I can just, you know, it's just so nice. There is actually room here to put something, but then it kind of falls off sometimes. You know, it's a pretty good deck up there and operator station, but I think that's so much nicer. And then I got this is actually so nice to be able to put my chainsaw there. Honestly, I don't know, it was such a pain to like try to put it somewhere back there or up here, or, you know, where else do I put it when I want to try to actually work. So it's nice there that it's really out of the way. Something else that I really like, we're just talking about dimensions, the lights. I love how they're inside the fenders. I actually had a 25 horsepower model. I had the 225S, which is kind of, the S is kind of like the, they have a 25 horsepower model that's E, which is a little bit bigger, but not many nice features. I had the S, which is a little bit smaller, but you know, still 25 horsepower model, and it had a lot of extra features. The lights on those smaller models are like outside or equal to the wheel, and just, you know, I got hit. I broke one of them off, and then I took the other one off before it had a chance to break. But it doesn't actually come with this toolbox. I swiped that from the 25 horsepower model before I traded it in. It does come with this toolbox in the back by default, and then one little measly lamp. On these types of tractors, I don't care what brand it is, but you almost always have to upgrade the lights. So I got one up there and one there, and they're both tied together down here into this little switch. So I put that switch in, and it's properly fused. I ran that all the way to the engine. I put it in a little bit of an insulated cable there, so couldn't snag on anything. But that's pretty much the only upgrades that I've done to the tractor so far. Everything else is pretty much standard, other than this this quick hitch here I bought. This is a Speedco category 1 quick hitch. I actually had to make some modifications to it. I actually made this, I had to drill this out a little bit and make this a little bit wider, because this was actually category 2 3-point hitch assembly. And if you look at the book, I believe the cab model has category 2. The open station version, per everything that I saw, has category 1. But I am more than happy to get these upgraded links. But either way, like, this is awesome. This is an awesome beefy 3-point hitch connection. You've got telescoping links to make it really easy to pull these in or out. It's just under pressure from the mower deck that I lowered, so it won't push down. But normally you could push it down, you could pull in or out, which makes, if you don't have a quick hitch, it makes connecting things so easy. This is awesome. And then of course this, even you go with a smaller type of 3-point hitch assembly, it does not have this I think sway bar adjustment. I'm not sure what exactly this is called, but this is so simple to unhook, move around. Most of them have like a threaded rod. I would, if you do lots of 3-point work, and especially if you don't have a quick hitch, like that threaded rod is so painful to move. It was annoying. I would never buy another tractor without either getting an upgrade back there or getting a model that has something like this. This is so nice to be able to unhook, be able to slide these out and in and around things. I think I only have to do that for one implement. I have to take this off, but other than that, this whole back end assembly is nice. The tractor comes, all this is standard in the tractor. So we got two rear remotes. You've got a 7-pin connector right there. Excuse me. Again, all of this is standard. It comes with a drawbar attachment down there. It comes with this is actually one of the really nice features, being able to lower the rear the 3-point hitch, being able to lower and raise it from the rear. Obviously tractor's off, otherwise it would raise, but being able to do that from here is awesome. And all it is just, it's just a mechanical lever. Like, it's nothing fancy. I don't know why every tractor doesn't do that. Like, that's awesome. I think the only thing that John Deere has that this model does not have is they have on the R version the ability to creep the tractor forward and backwards. I think that's the only thing the R has that this does not. I could be wrong on that though. Moving on to the operator station. First, before we climb up, the fuel tank is actually down here, which is really nice. It makes it easy dumping fuel cans into it. Going on up in, we got this is the Hydrostat model. It actually does come with the shuttle shift and normal gears, so this would be the clutch side obviously, but this is just the HST. Coming over here, this is your 4-wheel drive. I almost always have 4-wheel drive on. No real reason to turn it off. I almost always need it for pretty much every job I have. This is the differential lock, which is actually really nice. You just push this down and this automatically, so you push it down and it automatically unengages when it senses it doesn't need it anymore. So if you feel it like not working, that's why it only works when it needs to. This is, of course, your lever for how slow or fast the 3-point hitch lowers. So if it actually doesn't raise at all, that means you probably have this open too much and no flows going back there. These are just for the seat controls, don't really need to cover those. Parking brake, of course, it has the annoying beep unless you put the parking brake on when you turn it off. This is to engage or disengage the PTO shaft, which is actually really nice. because when you are connecting or disconnecting these things, if it's disengaged, you can just spin it, spin the spline really easy to line up to wherever this is, so you don't have to try to rotate this or try to, you know, get that in the right. You don't have, it's a lot less fighting. It's just really nice. So that's what that one does. Let's hop on up to cover the rest. I think we got so over here we have those are the two rear remotes. One of them is this one's detent. The other one's just a normal release. And then of course you have your 3-point hitch right there. Then I already talked about my lights. So this is your gears. The HST model has 3 gears. I almost always keep it in 2. 3, yeah, it's pretty much a road gear. It's way too bumpy on this property to ever really use that. I can't quite drive into a pile with 2. I almost always have to use 1 if it's a decent pile of like rock or dirt or stuff like that. Then of course here's the front loader arms, your hydrostat pedals. And then up here we got a few nice little features. These are just your random lights. That's your hood lights, horn, and then hazards. This is for the DPF. If you're, the only reason you would want it to not regen, like when you see a symbol up there saying that it's going to start regenning, it needs to get the temperature and then it'll start. If you are in a bad spot, you can press that button to delay it. You don't really ever want to do that. The only reason you'd want to do that, like if you're, you know, I don't know, parked somewhere like in a dry cornfield for some reason, that could start a fire. Like that's pretty much the only reason you would want to delay that. I have, you know, it's pretty dry out here a lot of the time. I've never really had any issues even come close to starting fires like with this. So I just let it happen when it needs to happen, and it's all good. Then of course, if you press the cancel button, you can force it manually the next time you're parked safely, which is what they recommend if you do that. But since I've never done that, I've never had to do that, so I'm all good. Over here we got a couple good ones. This was actually for RPM speed adjustment, and right now I have it set to 2400 RPM, which is my PTO speed. When I'm at 2400 RPM, the PTO shaft spins at 540. And the awesome thing about this is all I got to do is press that up, and it'll instantly go to that speed. So without me having to touch the throttle. So it basically overrides the throttle, which is really nice. Like it's awesome. This is basically, when this is engaged, the hydrostat pedals, it almost operates like a car. It automatically applies the throttle the further you push down on the pedal. I don't think I've really ever used that much, but it is nice. I forget the application, but I've used it a few times, and I remember thinking it was nice when I had it. And then this, of course, is your tilt steering. Other than that, everything, like, you got a lot of space to really set out your feet and relax on here. I have stored some items over there behind the pedals. There's pretty ample room there to store things. So overall, this this operator station is pretty nice. My only complaint is somehow, I think maybe it's when I'm getting off this side, maybe since I have to deal with the pedals, maybe somehow I accidentally kick that, but every now and then I find that one down. I don't know how I'm doing it, but every now and then I'm finding it down. Of course, I can almost always hear it, especially you notice it when you try to operate the front loader and it doesn't move, or it moves really slow because you're diverting a lot of flow to the rear that isn't doing anything. You're basically deadheading it. That's one negative for me. Another negative is the flow on this seems slow. I can't really relate it to much because I don't, you know, this is the only tractor that I, you know, in this series that I've owned, and Dad never had utility front loader tractors because we were, you know, soybeans and corn up in Illinois. Like we didn't have need for a front loader. So I don't know what's normal, but it seems slow unless I rev up the engine a lot. I think that's probably normal on these tractors, but one real complaint is it is pretty close to impossible to try to do diagonal and find that perfect spot where you're dumping and raising at the same time. It's pretty close to impossible to find that perfect spot where you're actuating both those valves. I think Kubota has the best one of these, if I remember correctly, just from watching some videos. But I'm not sure what Deere is like, but that's one of my complaints with this. I don't think I really have any other complaints. Everything else is very accessible. The battery is in front there, where there's my fuse connection for the lights I added. It's very easy to, you know, reach if I ever need to do some, you know, battery maintenance, like change it out. This is very easy to take off and clean. And then the radiator has a little the little knob there where you unscrew and you can pull out this, slide this out to clean it. So that's pretty easy. The hood pops up pretty easy, so that's really no complaints there. I'm not really sure I have anything else to say about this tractor as far as, you know, the general overview. Okay, so would I buy this again? Because that's kind of the right thumbs up or thumbs down test. First of all, I'm not like an elitist brand person. One's better than another. I think they all have benefits and they all have downsides, and maybe one's slightly better than the others. I don't know about reliability, but all I can speak to is this tractor and this brand, because this is the second tractor that I've owned in this brand. The first one was, like I said during, you know, earlier, the 25 horsepower model. I upgraded this one to be able to get work done faster, and this thing has been a beast. It's awesome. It weighs a lot, which is really how much work you can get done. And even the smaller 25 horsepower model, it weighs a lot more than the equivalent Deere and Kubota did. When you look at the specs, it just could do a lot more work. And everybody that I've talked to that has driven and actually worked with the 25 horsepower model LS and Kubota and Deere all say the same thing, that they say the LS does better. And that 25 horsepower model was awesome, but I needed to be able to get a lot more work done faster, and so I upgraded. And you know, that tells you alone what I thought of LS and the model, right? But the problem is my dealer closed down. It was during you know, right after the pandemic, and things were recovering, but like you know, I saw market reports, Target, Walmart, pretty much every retailer in America overbought their inventory because they couldn't get it fast enough, and they assumed people would keep buying at the same crazy pace that they were buying at originally. And well, that didn't happen. I'm not going to get into politics or inflation or the stupid Federal Reserve, but okay, I guess I did. But the point is, things didn't continue, and I think we also have something significant going on that I probably want to mention, and this is all speculation, but just observing, you know, as a student of the economy and markets, we live in an area where there's very little people. The dealer was about halfway between here and Austin, and you know, I could afford this land because I am like over an hour away from Austin, but he was a little bit closer, and the amount of people that could afford land and a tractor in that area, with land prices going crazy high, was just, I don't know, maybe the top 1%, maybe the top 10%. It was crazy. And so I think he just largely exhausted his market. Where I live, there's actually a Deere and a Kubota dealer on a major highway between Marble Falls and Burnet. And, you know, that gets a lot of traffic for people who would want to buy in this area. But people who live in this area aren't ever really going to drive by that dealer where they were at, because it was kind of like down and out of the way into Austin. It's one of the two basic ways to get to Austin, I guess you could say. But especially on this side of Burnet, most people would go another route into Austin, would never even see that dealer. So I'm just speculating that he kind of pretty much sold his right, like sold to who he could sell to, and then if there's no one else like me, I was looking for value. I was looking for Kubota doesn't have value over Deere. Kubota basically has the same price as this Deere, if not more. Like 10, 20 years ago, I think Kubota was where LS is now. Like they're lesser known. They have to lower their price to be able to compete. And that's exactly what LS is doing. So if you look at a 40, that's a tongue twister, a 44R, which is what the spec sheet compares this to. I forget the Kubota model, but you can go online and see, and this does amazing. Like the lift capacity of the front loader, the lift capacity, the 3-point hitch I think might be similar or a little worse, but the front loader, this thing can lift, like, I forget the rating, but I've lifted 2,000 pounds with this up to the full or near full lift height. It's got a lot of lift. Why am I holding the stick? It's got a lot of lift capacity, and one of the reasons why that is because the arms it's by design. They have shorter arms. It doesn't stick out as far. So if you're looking at a tractor, that's something to consider. You know, if you're dumping up over the bed of a trailer or something like that. This one doesn't have as big of a reach, but it does have a lot more breakout capacity and lift capacity because of just the design. This is actually the same LS. I think I forgot to mention, but LS actually makes this is like the New Holland Boomer series. Everything this and smaller is actually made by LS, and then New Holland buys it and puts their own loader on. So if you actually look at it, it's actually a different loader because it's, a New Holland. It's like nice and sweeping curves instead of this angular. I actually like this design better, but it's just a different front loader, and so it has different ratings and specs. But the tractor itself is, all the same. I forget how far up that goes. I think the New Holland Workforce, Workmaster, I think those are either made by New Holland or someone else. I don't believe LS makes them, but they might, because LS does make even bigger tractors than this, like all the way up to, I don't know, 150, 170 horsepower. I forget the biggest, but they actually make some pretty good sized tractors, and they're, they're still trying to get established in North America. But anyway, that's kind of enough about that. But I got distracted. I was talking about the dealer who went out of business. And like I said, the next closest one is like 40 to 50 miles away. So would I buy this again? I love it. I think, $26,000 or so. You could probably get one for $28,000 a day with inflation and markup. That's just a rough guess. And I can't even remember what I got it for sure. So I might be a little off on that. I just want to throw that out there so you can get an idea. If you look at, the comparison, it's just, the base level model. I don't even think the 4044M can be had for as cheap as this. Not even close. I think that's like 30, maybe in the low 30s. I can't remember. But, then you talk about the R and all the upgrades that gives. And I could be wrong about some of the differences there, but this has a lot of really nice features, and it's very capable, and it's very heavy. The weight on this one, the tire size, it's very, very good. I've been very happy with what this tractor can do. I can just outright push over trees out here. All but the very biggest of trees, I can just push right over. Maybe if you're living in the Northwest and have huge pine trees, that's probably not gonna be able to push them over. But it's, this is a very substantial tractor. It's, so the question of would I buy it again? It's hard because on one hand, it's like I probably would have wanted to buy a Deere had I known that the dealer would go out of business. You got to have a dealer to support you nearby, and 40 to 60 miles. An hour's drive is just too far. Granted, they can ship parts and I can repair most things myself, but an hour's just too far. I don't like that. So I probably would have wanted to get a John Deere, but then again, I couldn't have afforded the Deere. so it's kind of like one of those things where, I could have gone down. I could have gotten a 3025E maybe in a Deere, but then I'm not getting even close to the same tractor with the same power and stuff. So um, I think I'd need to think on it more. But all I can say is I would not be scared to go with LS. They have, like I've said, they've spent millions developing a engine that would meet the United States EPA emissions. Um, I don't think they're going away soon. Anybody who does something like that has zero intentions of, like they put all their chips on the table. Well, maybe not all of them, but they put substantial chips on the table in investment in research and development. And this is actually the second iteration of this engine, this Tier 4 engine. The first one started to have some problems, and it wasn't great. But talking with my dealer before he went out of business, this version of the engine he's only seen one in his shop with major problems, and that was after it was after I forget how many thousands of hours of it was old, and it was a lot of use, and it just wouldn't start, so they couldn't figure it out, so they had to rip it down and repair it. But that's the only one. Every other one has been great. And that's not to say that these won't last long. That's more a testament to how few problems that these engines have had. I think when they first developed these engines, they did have some problems. And I remember reading some things and seeing some negative things about the LS, the first iteration of their Tier 4 engine, but they fixed them. They listened to their dealers. That's another thing that my dealer talked to me. Like, a lot of the improvements in this tractor and this engine are here because LS dealers know their customers and they know what they want, and they elevate that feedback to LS and they make the changes. So I think they're a great company. If you have an LS dealer that's been there for a while and doing a lot of good business, especially if they sell multiple brands, I don't know what exclusive agreements or whatever dealers have to have, but maybe if it's a dealer that sells this and maybe another brand like I don't know, Bobcat, or so, I don't even know if that's possible, but I've seen a few of them that mix and match LS with other brands. If you have a dealer that's been there for a while that you don't think is going out of business, obviously you can't know the future. I would not hesitate to get another LS, but I don't know. It's hard because I've always I grew up with Deere. I grew up driving John Deere tractors. I grew up thinking that if I had a tractor or an opportunity to buy one, it would have to be a John Deere. But my wife liked blue paint. So that's one of the reasons why we actually looked here. But really, it was just the value. You could get so much more for your money. And so I guess the right way maybe to look at it is, I have never had a problem with the tractor where I had to take it in. The only problem that I had starting it is sometimes I have to jiggle the PTO switch. So there's probably just a loose, it's just a limit switch that probably something needs adjusting in there that I probably need to fix or take a look at. But honestly, I never have, because every time I just jiggle it and it starts right up. So I've never even taken the time to do that. And that's really the only problem that I've had, even close to calling a problem. So, the cost of, like, even if I had to pay someone else to ship this, I think it's like $3 a loaded mile. So that's 80 miles round trip, 80 miles times, so $240, right? Like, how many? So if I had to pay someone else to take this to the dealer, how many clips of, say, $300 even? How many? I could do that probably at least 10 times, probably closer to 20 or 30 times before I get close to equaling the price of a John Deere 4044R. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of what it's worth, right? So, I mean, I guess if I think about it, this versus the equivalent John Deere, I mean, I think I'd have to say this: if you have a dealer at all close by. But that's me. That's just me. I do think as I get older, for my own peace of mind, also just for longevity, because I just have to imagine the sensors in an engine like this with turbo and a regen cycle, all of the crap that it has to have for emissions. I loved my dead simple 25 horsepower engine. That thing had a starter, an alternator, not even a fuel pump, right? Because the fuel tank's higher. Didn't have a turbo. It was just so simple. Like, I loved that engine, but I needed more power, so I had to get this one. But I think as I developed the property, I could see myself trading in this for a 25 horsepower model Deere. Um, just because I would want something close by that I drive back and forth by every single time. I could always stop on my way to work or from home, from work, and get a part if I needed one. Like, so that's honestly the biggest reason why I might one day switch to something like a John Deere. Uh, but until then, I'm gonna work the crap out of this thing, and if I have any more problems, I'll let you know. Didn't really cover any driving the tractor because you can see that in all of my other videos. But if you have any questions or you want to see anything in particular, any of the capabilities for this thing, let me know, and I can see what I can do. So I hope that helps somebody. If not, well, it's there for maybe one day it will. Anyway, my voice is gone, and I can't think of anything else to say anyway. So yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.